If you can hear the clippy clop or the snorty snort in the background, those are my grand dogs visiting. I hope Cheryl will pop in a photo of how adorable they are. I love them, but they can be noisy, especially when you're recording a podcast. So forgive us, boys. I'm going to be busy for a few minutes. Yes, I am. All right. Welcome to Business of Design, the podcast where we don't talk about dogs. No, we talk about your interior design business and what's working for you and what isn't, maybe. I got a long list of what's not working for me these days and a story for this episode about how someone pointed out a pattern I was slipping into in my personal life and how that impacted me in my business and what I'm doing about it right now when I need it. So if you have a business in need and you're trying to do your very best running an interior design firm like I am, and you want happy clients, you want profitability, you want flexibility and vacation time, you want profits, and you want that soul satisfaction of having done a great job and knowing your worth, then you are in the right place. Let's check in with Cheryl and we'll get right into the episode.
Thanks, Kimberly. Well, I want to focus in on our project management webinar that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. It's happening on May 27th. Full details are, of course, on the website. I know we've mentioned it. This webinar has been in the works for a very long time. And specifically, what we're going to be talking about is a legal way to hire trades on behalf of your clients, allowing you to act as project manager on behalf of your clients and fully run through the BOD 15 from start to finish, exactly as prescribed, in those areas where it's not currently legal for interior designers to take the lead in that way and be the project manager. So we have spoken with countless lawyers to try and find a workaround for this, and we have finally partnered with Wendy Estella. She works with a lot of interior designers. We were lucky enough to meet her through Lori from the interior design community at High Point, and she really stepped up, took the time to look into this. She understands the importance to interior designers to be able to offer this valuable service. It is a game changer in terms of the profitability of your business when you are able to hire those trades, and it's a game changer for just staying in control and on top of every single touch point in the project. Attendees will receive the exact language to add to your contract. And this can be added whether you are working on a hourly flat fee or even using our hybrid model contract. So for anyone looking to take on project management and increase your profitability by offering this valuable service to your clients, I encourage you to sign up. Again, it's happening on May 27th. Regular price $695, and of course our members always have great pricing at $395. You're going to save $300 if you're a member, and again, this works on any of the contracts that we are using, and it will allow you to really implement the BOD 15 from start to finish. So join Kimberly and Wendy and myself on May 27th for this webinar. Registration is open. Again, head to businessofdesign.com. Events is in the BOD shop, and you can see full details there. As always, reach out to me, Cheryl, at businessofdesign.com if you have any questions. We'd love to see you there. Thanks so much.
You keep telling yourself that. Familiar phrase? Well, recently I was hiking in the mountains with friends, and I reached down into my bag and I muttered something like, "Oh, I'm such an idiot." And I said that because I had forgot to pack my hiking boots for our weekend in the mountains. And by the way, if you didn't hear the introduction and you hear some noise in the background, those are my grand dogs that I'm babysitting, Cash and Kobe, and they are just very excited about the podcast today for some reason. I'm not sure why. They will settle down. Anyway, so my friend was standing there and she turned to me and she said, "You keep telling yourself that." And I just, laughed and ignored it. And then I saw her face and I was like, "Wait a minute, you're not, what are you saying?" So she looked at me and she said, sincerely, like, you say that kind of stuff all the time. You're talking about my good friend, and I don't see you like that. I don't see you like an idiot. I don't see you like a moron. I don't see you like a knucklehead. I don't think anyone sees you that way. And it's funny because at first I just laughed. And then I could see that she was really trying to get through to me. Um, I am so distracted right now because Cash is whining. I don't know if you can hear him. Let's see if he sounds like a pterodactyl. It's crazy. He could be a support dog, except for that he needs a support human. So anyway, but she said that I really have been saying it more frequently. And I said, well, I feel like I'm forgetting so much recently. And she just said, okay, so you can make a really big deal out of that, or you can realize that everybody does that. But if you keep saying to yourself that you're an idiot, that you're a moron, that you're a knucklehead, whatever, that's a powerful affirmation. And that kind of hit me right in the gut because I knew she was right. And I realized that I was kind of casually, mindlessly narrating myself into being less than I am, which is definitely not a perfect person, definitely not the smartest person in the room, but I'm not an idiot and I'm not a moron. And I wouldn't say something like that to one of my kids. So why would I say it to myself? On the drive home, I was thinking about how that kind of negative self-talk just seeps into everything, right? It starts with the hiking boots, but then it goes into like, oh, I forgot to put gas in the car. And then it slowly but surely it creeps into work. And, when you're running an interior design business or really any service-based business, where you're working closely with clients, it is not an easy thing to stay on the top of your game every day. And if I don't do that, I miss out on big opportunities for success. And I know, and oh my gosh, you guys know this too, but this is a reminder that a better sales strategy doesn't start with hiring a team or buying new software. It starts with better self-talk. When I change how I talk to myself, my business changes. And when my business changes, my life changes. So I've had to learn to replace some of the nasty things I say to myself. Okay, now they're gonna start their humping contest where one tries to hump one and then the other goes, no, you're not gonna hump me, I'm gonna hump you. So it's gonna get loud and I apologize. Yeah. If you're watching this on YouTube, I wish I could turn it around so you could see what's going on in front of me here. Um, the more I tell myself these negative messages, the more my actions are going to align with the negative messages. And I won't have the courage to do the things I might need to do. Like maybe I need to raise my rates, or maybe I need to turn down misaligned clients without guilt. Maybe I need to speak up more. Maybe I need to say no. Maybe I need to stop apologizing all the time for things I don't have control over. And when I do that, I actually begin to enjoy my work because I'm not handcuffed by self-doubt, and I show up to every project feeling rooted and grounded. So, you keep telling yourself that turns out to be a really powerful thing you can say to yourself or to anyone else when you're saying something you don't think is healthy for you. And once I heard that, as I said, in my personal life about hiking boots, which really didn't matter, I could walk in my tennis shoes, I could see how it was leaking into my professional life. And I'm the brand in my business, and so are you. And so the energy and the service and the way we show up is really, really powerful. And the best way to upgrade that is by telling ourselves good stories when no one is listening. So what do we do? How do we retrain our minds? It turns out I've been listening to a couple experts on this very topic, and it's not really as hard as you might think to retrain our minds with better thoughts. And those better thoughts become our beliefs. And then, of course, our beliefs become our behavior, and our behavior creates our reality. So if you want to change your business, if you want to change your life, you've got to start by changing the way you talk to yourself. That's a long-winded introduction to this. Your mind, my mind, is always listening. So whether I'm saying the thing out loud or I'm thinking it quietly, my subconscious is picking it up. And my subconscious is a super powerful engine, and it is going to do its very best to act in alignment with what I actually believe. So if I believe I'm unworthy, then I'm going to sabotage opportunities. If I believe that I'm capable, instead, I'm going to show up confidently. Mental input equals emotional output, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So let's look at some common things that maybe as a design professional you've thought before. And that can really, in my case, I had to think of some examples in my own personal life that can lead to real negative self-talk. So for example, the client is always right. I'm just going to have to deal with whatever they're throwing at me because I want to keep the peace and I want to keep the job going and I want to make them happy. What that actually creates is a real burnout, and for me, resentment. And as my boundaries get moved and squidgy, it becomes more and more harmful to me. I begin to undervalue my own expertise, and the clients sort of begin to take the lead and start to walk all over me. So that's not great, right? Not very good. Um, Another common thought, I can't say no. I can't say no. I mean, she's been my client a really long time. I really like her. They're really decent people. This job is already, maybe it's not going well. If I say no, this could be the thing that really tips it over the edge. And what is that going to create? I think that's going to create me overcommitting myself, giving more than the client is paying for, which is a really, it sounds lovely, but it's a bad dynamic and it doesn't work for anyone. It can lead to, so for example, scope creep that you're not catching, and it can lead to undercharging for sure. And that, of course, is harmful because then suddenly we're running this fear-driven service, which is going to attract clients who want to bully you, who want to abuse your time and your value. Another common thing we hear at Business of Design, frequently from designers, and by the way, it doesn't really matter how long you've been in business. We hear this from designers across the board. I can't charge more because I'm not experienced enough. I don't have an office. I don't have a team. I didn't go to design school. I live in a small neighborhood. I live in a large neighborhood. We talk a lot in the book, Run Your Business. I go through a very specific negative money mindset and imposter syndrome stuff like this in order to uncover it so you can retrain your thinking. And of course, all of these things lead to what? You're not charging enough money, right? You lowering your prices, you living in a sense of imposter syndrome, which I have met the most talented singers, authors, writers, people who make a living, people who are on the New York Times bestseller list, and they suffer from imposter syndrome. So you're not alone, but it's definitely harmful because it leads us, all of these negative patterns of thinking lead us ultimately to negative patterns of behavior, such as undercharging or attracting really the wrong tier of clients, which is going to keep you stuck for a long time. Something I struggle with is this idea that I have to answer everything right away, or the client's going to what? They're going to think I don't care about their project. Here's a flash. I don't care about their project 24/7. I really don't. I care about their project multiple times during the week, and I care deeply. But when I'm off the clock for any reason, I'm not caring about their project. And I remember a time when I was haunted by work. It didn't matter where I was. I specifically remember a time I ran as fast as I could to get to my massage appointment on time because I was desperately in pain with a bad back issue. And I was so stressed out. By the time I got there, I'm like sweating and I throw myself on the table and it's like, ugh. And the whole time I'm in the massage, I'm so tense because I'm thinking about work. And none of that is helpful. So the reality is I don't have to answer a client's inquiry right away. I can leave space a reasonable amount of space, absolutely, until I have an answer. And there's a few ways that I can handle that. For example, I can say, hey, great question. I don't have that answer. When I speak to the contractor tomorrow at 4 p.m., I will get that answer for you. Or I can say, I just wanted to let you know I got your email. I've got a couple of days off the clock here, and I will circle back to you on Thursday. Without a lot of explaining, I can just acknowledge that I've received it and I don't have that answer, right? This idea that I have to answer right away or the client's going to think I'm not professional, it creates such anxiety and a lack of boundaries. And then, of course, that just ruins any attempt at a work-life balance, whatever that is. I've never been great at that. Also, the really bad part of that is I'm actually training my clients that they can expect 24/7 access to me, which isn't sustainable. I remember one time hanging out with a builder friend of mine in Laguna Beach, and Tim Grady does beautiful work in Orange County, and his phone was ringing, and I said, "Oh, you can go ahead and get that." And he goes, "No, no, no, I'm training my client right now." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "She calls me all the time. She needs to know that I'm not always going to be able to answer." And I thought, just wow, so simple. He gets it. Why do I need to be reminded? But I do. I don't know why. That's how it is. Another thought that is absolutely debilitating is this idea that I need the client more than the client needs me. That creates this desperate, repellent energy that nobody wants to be around. And it actually is a really, it's the perfect way to give your power away and shift the dynamic from a dynamic of partnership and alignment into one of like servitude. I'm here for whatever you need, which is just, that is no way to be the expert. And then the last one, I guess, example I came up with is this idea that I'm bad with confrontation, so I'll just be quiet. It's really interesting. I'm really comfortable with direct confrontation. If somebody like comes at me directly in my face, I get my back up and I'm like, "Ugh," and I know how to push back on that. But what I am not good at often is being assertive. Just like, no, thank you. I don't want ice in my water. It's such a dumb thing, but you're having dinner with friends and you just, oh, I don't want to say anything. And it's so often I can't just be assertive with work situations. And that creates frustration, misaligned expectations, I would think, from the client, as well as poor outcomes. And avoiding, at least in my business life, avoiding the hard conversations has never helped a situation. It has compacted, compiled, and made bigger the problem I didn't want to deal with in the first place. And I find today, when I do have one of those conversations that feels like it's going to be contentious or confrontational, I usually lead with something like, listen, neither one of us wants to have this conversation. So I just want to put that out there on the table. And then the second thing I'll usually say is, I'm not sure I have a perfect solution to our difficulty. However, what I want to do now is make sure I understand what your concerns are. And I'm going to try to solve that for you if I can. That's my intention. But I'm not coming into this meeting with a fully devised plan to get us out of the pickle we're in. Does that make sense? Are you okay with that? I'm going to listen, make sure I really understand what's going on here. And then my intention is to solve the problem. Does that work for you? And usually by the time I've said that kind of introduction, the client is calm. They're like, absolutely, I trust you. I know we're going to work this out. And it just takes all the hot air out of the situation. I can't do any of that if I'm living in a space where I'm constantly telling myself I'm an idiot, I'm a moron, I don't know how to run a business, I'm not good with money, I'll never get it right. Like, these things are eroding my confidence. And one thing you really need as an interior design professional is confidence. And I've said this a million times. I didn't get it from taking improv. I didn't get it from, taking a speaking course or Toastmasters. I got confidence from having systems. So I knew what the answer was when something went wrong. I have a system for that. I will use the system. So this idea of these negative self-talk, it's different for all of us. But one thing that we all have in common, I think my first example was this idea that the client is always right. I'm going to have to bend myself in a pretzel and do whatever they want. Instead, what I tell myself now, when I hear myself saying something that is alarming or negative, what I tell myself, my mantra is, I bring value to this equation. The clients have hired me for a reason. It was really, really helpful for me to define the tangible, concrete, specific value I brought to consultations, which is part of what you'll learn in step 1 at Business of Design. And then it was equally, maybe even more valuable for me to define in tangible physical terms the value I bring to clients during the projects, during steps 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Along the way, I now know specifically what value I bring to clients. And so when I have a thought that it sounds like imposter syndrome, I'm not feeling terribly confident, I'm like, wait a minute. Here are the concrete, physical, tangible things I bring to clients. So much greater than just like, I will save you money and time. That's great. But when you can give specific examples from ongoing projects, yesterday I met with a client and it was a new client. I'd never worked with them before. And they had an idea to put a mudroom at the side of the house. And I was so grateful I was able to stop them from that. That was a huge mistake. And here's why. And my suggestion was we added to the front of the house, which needed a makeover anyway. And it'll probably be the same amount of money, but so much easier to access. I give those examples from real life to clients all the time. I sort of pepper my speech with what's happening on other jobs where I can show them the value I contribute. It doesn't have to be in their project right away, but it could be that I've contributed this value on another project. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Boundaries build trust and they build respect. Nobody respects the person who has no boundaries. Nobody respects the person who caves on every negotiation. No one respects the person who takes a shortcut, right? And so when a client's asking me to waive on a boundary, I'll say, listen, this is our policy. We have this policy for a reason, and I can tell them the reason if I know it. I'm not going to give in on this policy because it's important. The same way, I'm not going to take a shortcut when we're renovating your bathroom. I'm not going to say, don't worry, you can go ahead and skip the moisture barrier. That'll save a few $100 and a couple of weeks of time. I'm never going to take a shortcut. I'm going to be able to protect the boundaries that are going to be important to your renovation. And therefore, I have to also protect the boundaries that are important to run my business. I also tell myself, Kashi, I know you're trying to get attention. Now cut it out. It's always Cash. It's never Kobe. Cash is the English, if you look at the photo, and Kobe is the little Frenchie. But oh my goodness, Cash is needy, so needy. I also remind myself, and this is a really important time in my business for me to remind myself, the right clients are going to appreciate my expertise and my time. The right clients. The wrong client is never going to appreciate your expertise or your time, and they're not going to pay your consultation fee, and they're going to complain about your regular fees. And that's why it's so important that we're constantly screening and getting our ideal clients to sign up within us in the first place, right? I deserve to be paid. That's a really powerful mantra. I deserve to be paid for the results I will create. I deserve to be paid for the risk, responsibility, liability I'm willing to accept on behalf of the client. And when I struggle with that, I think about other professionals in my life who deserve to be paid. I think of like my daughter has a dog sitter she uses frequently. That woman deserves to be paid. She needs to be able to put gas in her car and pay for her insurance and pay for courses so she can upgrade her learning. And she needs to make a profit. And I can respect that. And I want that service. So I'll pay for that service. And when I'm looking for a client, I'm looking for someone who has that attitude as well. And the client doesn't get to tell me what I can charge. I know that recently, since 2024, my yoga class that used to be $20 a pop is now $32 a class. That's a heck of an increase, right? That's over 50% increase. But the truth is, yoga studios weren't making money and they were struggling. And now at $32, they're still probably not making a ton of money, but it was a lot more to me. So the question I have to ask myself is, do I value the instruction, the setting, the water cooler in the corner that's there for me, the music, the extra events they do? Do I value all that? And if I do, I'm going to support that. That's important for me to support that. And every interaction with a client, this is my favorite mantra recently. Every interaction with a client is an opportunity for me, not just to serve the client, which I think is important. I want to serve the client, but every interaction is an opportunity for me to lead. How can I take this worry from the client and let them know that I got this? I'm going to take care of this. You don't have to think about this anymore. I'm the expert and your partner in this process. And I literally say to clients, there's no reason for both of us to be worried. Let me worry about this. Why don't you go and enjoy the weekend? Let this ruin my weekend. And on Monday, I'm going to deal with it. All right. Can we agree to that? And they'll always, say absolutely. When I say no to a client because they want me to move a boundary or be flexible, again, I remind them I can't do that, but instead I'll do this. And if a client really, really continues to test your limits, see if you can make space for a better client, right? I recently hired someone who's going to redo my website. Gosh, it's just like every 5 years, right? It's crazy. Every time we get a new website, I think this is it. It's great. I'm never going to have to do another one. And 5 years later, here we are. But part of what she did is interview my clients. And I can't believe the lovely things they said about me, and that, 8 of them agreed to be interviewed, and that 8 of them had phenomenal things to say about me. And not one of them said, I love how cheap she is, right? They appreciated that I'm serious about running a business. That was a theme that came up over and over. They got that I wanted to make spaces beautiful, but they really appreciated that I took it very seriously. And I never made them feel that their inquiries were wrong. I honored, what their concerns were when they had concerns. So I was really happy to get that information. When I have a tough conversation with clients, also, I didn't say this earlier, but I do prepare a script frequently, and I remind myself what I'm going to say, and I practice how I'm just going to be firm and respectful and make sure that both of us come to an agreement everybody can be happy with. And all of that is possible when I'm telling myself better messages every single day. It's not just about the messages I tell myself at work. It's about when I forget my hiking boots and I mutter to myself out loud, what an idiot, right? I know I've shared this before, but one rule of thumb I have, and I'm not perfect at it, obviously, is I don't say anything to myself I wouldn't say to my kids. So once in a while, I'll catch myself and I think, wow, would you really have said that to your son? Hey, Cooper, you moron, you forgot your hiking boots. No, I really wouldn't. Isaiah, big deal. You're walking tennis shoes. We'll do a different route. It doesn't really matter. I have to be vigilant because for whatever reason, I am wired to go down the negative rabbit hole with myself. Maybe it has something to do with my early life, right? If it's not one thing, it's your mother kind of stuff. Who cares? I don't really care why I'm like that. What I'm grateful for is I know how to talk better to myself. Anyway, I am so glad you're here. Thank you so much, as usual, for giving me this time and allowing me to have a therapy session with you as my therapist. I so often wish when I'm doing the podcast, I could see your beautiful faces and I could just tell you how much we appreciate you at Business of Design. If you're not yet a member, we would really appreciate it if you could become a member. It's hilarious because often when people are super busy, they say, well, I don't have time to be a member right now. I'm super, super busy. And we're hearing from tons of people that they're quite slow, in part because of tariffs and political disharmony. And my clients have put almost every job we have on hold because of the tariffs. They're not willing to go forward until they know things are more stable, and I can't really blame them. So believe me, I feel it. And there's a temptation to call, like, maybe if I lower my rates. You don't need to lower your rates. They're not saying I'm not going to hire you because your rates are high. They're saying right now, with the instability and the chaos in the markets, we're going to put pause on a luxury experience like decorating. We can't put pause on the kids' education, but we can put pause on redecorating the living room or building, adding the addition to the family room, which are a couple of projects we had coming up. So that's okay because now I have time to work on my business. And I always say when I'm busy, oh, I had more time to go take this course or learn from this person or that person. And then when it happens, the tendency is for us to all fall apart and think, I can't do it now because I don't have the money. The reality is you can't afford not to work on your business. I'm begging you, don't buy more software. Don't sign up for $10,000 coaching programs. Come to Business of Design. I guarantee we can make your business and your life better. And thank you, because you certainly make my life better. It's great seeing everybody. Bye for now.